In any life, we have highs and lows, light and dark, wins and losses. What happens when we encounter that moment in time when what happens next could change everything? Join us as we step into another person's inspirational moment and see how we can connect their experience to ours. This is Greg Stevens, and you're listening to A Shot of Inspiration. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Shot of Inspiration. I'm Greg Stevens, your host. And of course, I have Finley, my color commentator, here with me. And she's my co-host, but we'll put her in the other room when we get to the real conversation. Today, we have Peter Awad here with us. And I'm so happy. I met Peter in Palm Springs a little over a month ago and got to know him and some of the things he's doing. And I asked him immediately to be a guest on our show. We had a lot in common, and he had a program right after he invited me to. I only got to be part of it for one day because I had other things scheduled, but I really found his program insightful and helpful. And Peter, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yes, I am too. I'm going to go ahead and put my little puppy here in the waiting room. Peter, let's talk about where do you live, where are you from, and what do you do now?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California, little town called Dana Point, South Orange County, from Florida by way of Iowa. So we've lived all over the place. It makes no sense. And I am an executive leadership coach to Christian businessmen. And we can get into what that means and why that demographic in a little bit. But that's what I'm doing, man. Help leaders and their teams be more effective, have more impact, and see the world through the lens that they were meant to see it through.
That's awesome. So before you did Whitestone, which is the organization you created now, you had an organization called, was it Slow Hustle?
Yeah, Slow Hustle was our
Tell
podcast.
us a
That's right.
little about that and how you made the transition over to coaching Christian businessmen.
Yeah. The quick backstory is grew up in an immigrant family in Florida in a grocery store. And so self-employment, entrepreneurship really in my blood. And going through that and college for engineering and just realizing like I was not cut out to be an engineer. I was not interested. And so ran a couple of e-com companies for a very long time. One in automotive, one in snack food. And in between those two started Slow Hustle knowing what I know now, I know why. But back, it was like, hey, I need to figure out this tensions that founders have with, hey, I've got all this drive and motivation and hustle, so to speak, but I feel like my life sucks. Like I'm not seeing my family, or I just don't feel like I'm living the life that I thought I was going to be living when I started this business. We're all seeking freedom and autonomy. And a lot of times as an entrepreneur, and you've experienced this too, Greg, is like you have the least of that as an entrepreneur. I think I had more freedom and autonomy when I was an employee.
I know I
And
did.
yeah, so I had that tension, and I'm like, I got to solve this because I saw my dad go through it, and I thought he was crazy. And then fast forward a couple of decades, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm dealing with the same stuff. And so I start interviewing founders and CEOs. I wanted to get an idea of, hey, let's talk your origin story. Let's hear about your business and the success and the anecdotes that you have for the audience. But then let's switch to the slowness segment of the show. Let's hear about your life. What's your wife say about you? What's your husband say about you? If I called your kids right now, what would they say? What's your life really like? And it was so cool, Greg, because the majority of the time, the people that you admired from a distance, you realize, I don't think I want to live their life, or I don't think I want to pay that sacrifice. Just learning that, I think what it did is it illuminated the real stuff, the real talk, and what exactly was happening. And then you could find your middle ground and bake the cake that you wanted to eat. And maybe externally it didn't look really exciting and it wasn't Instagrammable, but you actually got to live the life you were seeking when you started the entrepreneurial journey to begin with. And so there was a lot of lessons in there. It was a really beautiful journey over a couple years, a couple hundred episodes, a lot of founders that you and your listeners would recognize, and just learning like what on the other side of that success, what did they learn and what would they do different? What's their advice for somebody just starting out? And a lot of times it wouldn't be to take the path that they took, but it would be an alternate path or an alternate approach to that.
Yeah. So how long did you do that? How many years?
It was 2 years, couple hundred episodes. Yep.
2 years, couple hundred episodes. And then you've made the transition over to Whitestone. Tell me specifically about Whitestone and what caused you to have that transition.
Yeah, at the beginning of that show, I also started a snack food brand, and we ran that for almost 9 years. Ran the show down and closed out that last season, running this e-com company, but always felt like a square peg, man.
Really?
I was in e-com for 24 straight years, basically, with a bunch of other companies in between or in tandem. And I'd have every couple of years a crisis where I just felt like, man, I just meant for something different. I was meant for something greater. And there was no ego behind it. It just felt like I wasn't doing what I was put on this earth to do. And finally, in 2020, hired a coach. And I just wanted to tease out superpowers. It's like, man, what is Peter really uniquely gifted at?
And what is that?
I naturally see the path from A to B for people. I can deeply connect with people very quickly, and I'm insatiably curious. I'm curious about most everything in life. And so when I teased those three things out, I was like immediately depressed. And my coach is, what's wrong, man? I go, this is not a job. What do I do with this crap? Peter's a cool guy and he meets people everywhere and he likes to dig in on things like that. That's not a job. And he goes, oh, you don't get to know yet. He's like, your reticular activation system's going to kick in
Exactly.
and you're going to start to see opportunities where you can flex those superpowers, but you don't get to know yet. And so, sure enough, about 6 months later, I start to realize, wait a minute, coaching, that would be interesting. And then I just started asking people. And this is what I do when I have an idea. I start to ask all the people in my life they have specific knowledge in the space, or they're going to shoot me straight or both. And it's the first time in my life, Greg, where every single person came back and they were like, of course you're going to do this.
Yeah.
Several people were like, Peter, you've been coaching me for years, man. You just didn't know it.
Yeah. You didn't call it that.
I didn't call it that.
Yeah.
And so I started down that path, man. And the reason that I coach the people that I coach is because part of that journey was me being bummed out that I didn't see it earlier in my life. Because in the rearview mirror, it made a ton of sense. The reason I didn't see it is because I don't like coaches.
Tell me about that. Why don't you like people? Love
It's
that.
because I would say that 90% of the coaches, they got certified, they read a book, and now they're all of a sudden licensed to give out advice and inquire. When really, for me, it's like the people that I would seek out for mentorship and advice and coaching are people that have walked the walk, they've lived the thing, and
Yeah.
they survived and they came out the other side with some wisdom. And so I'm like, if that's true, then I will coach the folks that I can most relate to. And so, as a Christian, which I am, a man, which I am, business leader, which I am. If you're a husband and a father, even better, because that's the life I've lived. And that's what I can speak into. And what's even better than that, Greg, is like that's what I'm actively getting better at. And so I can learn alongside you.
Yeah.
Like I'm going out ahead and then I'm coming back and be like, hey, here's what I'm learning right now about the terrain. It's rough up ahead. And you're
Yeah.
going to need some extra rope.
Yeah.
You're going to need some extra straps. You need a stronger carabiner because it's going to get rough in a minute. And so that sort of thing is really fun for me.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people become coaches just because they ran a company.
Hmm.
And it's typically, as you already know, more than just doing that. I find over and over, are you willing to be coachable yourself? That's another thing I think is important for coaches. So, do you have a group of men that I guess sharpen your saw or your own coach? What do you have in place right now for yourself as far as making sure you're the best coach that you can be for people?
Yeah. So our mutual friend Chris is coaching us on back end stuff.
Yeah.
And then I've got a identity coach I'm working with right now, which is going to be folded into what we do. And then I've got a group of about 120 men we meet every Friday morning, which we continue to go through. It's a Bible study that's just exploded. Started with five of us and actively pursuing growth. And it's interesting what you say because we put it like this. You have IQ, PQ, EQ, right? So your IQ is your intelligence, your personality quotient is how you see yourself, how clearly you see yourself. And your EQ is how well you can read others. And man, if you just coming in with IQ, that's
That
gonna be a tough conversation.
is really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I,
that's not going to make for a good coach. That's going to make for like a drill sergeant or someone who's just going to tell you what to do without inquiring and figuring out why and digging down several layers like I'm sure you do, Greg. And so that's going to make for a pretty awful coach.
It's interesting. I find for at least what I do as I work, everyone starts out talking business. How can I do this better? And they take that on. Then they're like, let me take on the family. And that's when we really get the fun. To me, the family conversations, because I teach how to have the most difficult family conversations, are the most difficult. But also, what you're dealing with, Christian businessmen, you still get behind the scenes when you get there. And that's where the real work happens. It's in the core of the person, and the closest people to that are the family. So share with us the insights that maybe some insights or stories that you have worked with people where, as they've changed, both their family life and their business has really excelled.
Yeah. So here's what's interesting. I was just coaching on this in a group coaching call this morning. Is you have these concentric circles, starting with self, then family, then team, then organization, then community. And people want to go straight to organization, right? And then you think about, and I'm sure anybody who's listening has got a story about this where you somebody who was publicly very successful, and then you learn that they were an incredible private failure. And it's because that those concentric circles working from the inside out, it's like you've got a weak core. And that's why people implode. It's because they're not taking care of themselves and their family.
Yeah.
And so you hit it on the head, Greg. Like for me, I love working with business leaders and I love helping them with their business. But where we have the most leverage is them personally, themselves and their family. Because when that core is tight and that core is strong, then the business can stack on top of that and they can carry a lot more weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's fun for me, and this is not therapy at all, I'd be the worst therapist ever, is working on the why and peeling back the layers, man. It's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you've got business leaders that are scattered and they're asking 100 questions, it's so clear, especially the more and more you do this, you just get better. You can just see, you're like, wait a minute, you don't know who you are. What are you building somebody else's dream? Or are you building what culture's telling you to build? Building what your dad told you to build? Like, what is this? And then you find this core fear, and it's always fear. And it's funny because I don't use that word personally. And so I'm like, I'm scared. I'm not scared. Okay, you are.
Yeah.
If you get down to it, you're fearful.
Yeah.
A lot of your anger, guess what? Masking fear.
Yeah.
And so you find out, like, oh, what is this? Oh, I'm scared. I'm scared of failing. I'm scared that I'm losing my customers. I'm scared I'm gonna lose my family. Okay, interesting. Now we can work with that, right? Because now we're telling the truth. I just had a client, man, that just had the biggest revelation ever. He sent me the most beautiful text. He's like, Peter, I just got released from years of bondage in an afternoon. This is miracle work. And I'm like, that wasn't me, bro. Like anything that's smart, the Holy Spirit was speaking through me.
Right.
Anything that was dumb, that was me. So if you heard something dumb, that was coming out of my mouth, right? And so him specifically hearing things is, oh, all of the things that I've been trying to fix in my business and my personal life were band-aids over a real root issue that we can then flush out. We can fix this thing almost permanently. And I say almost because sometimes we have to revisit things. That's okay. But man, we can work with that.
Most people will talk about, oh, I'm honest, I've got integrity. I find so many times the leaders aren't honest with themselves. They're honest with everyone else at one level, the way they can be, but they're not honest with themselves because they can't be that vulnerable, because it's
Yeah.
hard to be honest with yourself. Do you find it's difficult for leaders to be honest with themselves, to break that down, to really take a look at themselves?
Yeah, and I usually don't go at it head on. What's really fun is, especially in the group environment, which we do mostly, is talking through things and working on issues that are not nearly as difficult to get your arms around. But then over time, you start to see a theme. And then I get to ask really fun things like, hey, Greg, so you said this, you used these words, and maybe you didn't notice. And then last session with the group, you mentioned that you're struggling with this thing. And then 3 sessions ago, you said this. What do you think that means to you? And a lot of times they're like, wait a minute, you just connected dots I've never connected before. And they think about, hey, I've got an issue with overwork, or I'm having issues with my team members just like not carrying the water. They're not doing the thing. I'm putting out the same problems over and over again. I can't seem to get them to like fully commit to the vision. Like I feel like I'm the only one that cares about this company. All these different things. And you're like, yes, we're going to attack all those things. Cool. Those are the things that you want to work on, and those are important. But it's just fun to connect the dots on all those on a higher level, and you dig deeper and you connect all these dots, and you're like, wait a minute, there's a core issue here
Yeah.
that if we fix this thing, oof, now it's going to fix all these other things. So, yes, very, very difficult. And I don't come at it head on typically because I don't think people are usually ready for that. And so, like, your mind starts to open up, and then you start to connect the dots, and then they start to see it. Like, wait a minute. Oh man, I've created the issues that I loathe. We like to say, what you protect, you create. And
Yeah.
so you want to keep from having these sorts of issues and you create them. It's like the helicopter parent. Hey, Johnny, watch out. Don't hurt yourself. Johnny, be careful. Johnny, don't drop that. And that kid's the most clumsy, dropping everything, falling all over. Why? Because they're creating it. They're making
Right.
that kid so freaked out that he's just doing the thing that they really don't want him to do. He doesn't even want to do it. And so, like, what we try to protect, we create. And so
Absolutely.
just uncovering those things. Oh, wait, you hate that your employees keep bringing you all the problems. They're incredible problem finders, but you're a micromanager. What does this mean? Of course, they're going to bring you everything because you micromanage them. You can't do anything right. You redo their work. You go behind their back. You do their thing. Oh, wait a minute. You don't want problems. You want things okay. And then we start to connect all these dots. It's just a really fun thing to do.
Is there any particular pathway you model you use bringing people through your program, or is it tailored for exactly what they're doing as you're changing sets? Do you have a process you walk people through?
Yeah. So we go through a group intensive process. A lot of the tools we use are through my buddy's company called Giant Worldwide. So we use a lot of his assessments and frameworks. These guys have been around for over a decade, just brilliant in creating these tools that are very accessible. So we utilize those frameworks alongside quite a few ad hoc tools that I've either created or accumulated over the years, and then a lot of identity principles through Jamie Winship. And so we utilize his content as well, stuff that we're actively getting coached on. And so there's three legs of the stool to this thing. It's identity and then leadership tools. And then really in the weeds, like people, I'd say half of our clients are not actively collecting APIs and using scorecards and have an operating system that they're operating with. And so we help them with that too. And so there's this in the weeds approach, but that's stacked on top of leadership, which is stacked on top of identity.
Now, how did you engage? How did you find like guys in Giant Worldwide and Jamie Winfield? How did you
Yeah.
first get in contact with these people?
Yeah, Jamie Winship, I've just been consuming
Winship.
all of his content, yeah, for a couple of years now. So really great content. Just Christian focused identity. And it's interesting because there's are several folks from other faith backgrounds that are following him now because his approach is intriguing. And so he comes at it from a different side. It's really cool.
When you say come
And
at it
then
from a different side, give me an example.
yeah, I like to explain him like this. He doesn't explain himself this way, but it's as Christians that believe in the triune God and no God before him, no God after him, like the three in one, Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God. A lot of times we're out in other countries just trying to convert people. And he's just, hey, I don't really care about your religion right now. Let's talk about your relationship with Jesus. Let's work on that. And let me help you figure out how to speak to him and how to hear him. And then we'll deal with your religion later, which I think to me is so fascinating because a lot of times with conversion and people that are focused on conversion and converting people, you're now approaching it from several different angles, which is, hey, I want to talk about your relationship. And oh, by the way, your culture. And oh, by the way, your family unit, like all of these things, which is, it's a heavy lift.
Yeah.
And it puts people on the defense versus, hey, let's just talk about your relationship with Jesus. What does that mean to you? Yeah. And so his basic prayer is, Lord, what do you want me to know and what do you want me to do? And creating this open dialogue with the creator and speaking to him in that way and hearing from him directly and learning how to hear his voice more and more clearly. And then we'll figure out your religion later.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
So, what has this done for using them, working with them? What's it done for your coaching? Tell us how you feel like it's progressed. It sounds like you're right in the spot you want to be in right now. It's
Yeah.
moved up. You've upgraded, in essence, your life, your coaching. Tell us how you feel like it's improved.
Yeah, starting out with Giant, which I think you asked me a question I didn't answer. I've gotten to know the founders, specifically one of the co-founders of Giant, and he's become a good friend, Jeremy Kubicek. Great, incredible man with just brilliant mind for leadership and leadership content and frameworks and creating tools that allow you to get your arms around extremely heady topics and process them and be transformed by them in a way that you maybe have not been able to figure out before as a leader. And that's been really powerful. What I found was that, and there were a lot of our leadership intensive process is that I would interact and engage with founders as just still they had this like core lack, this hole where they just didn't know who they are. They didn't know whose they are. And they were missing this component and this chicken with the head cut off that I mentioned earlier. It's as the more you work with leaders, the more you're like, wait a minute, hold on. Who are you? Who are you trying to be? What are you good at? Why you in this company? Who cares about the stuff we're talking about? So what that this is not working out? I had a client that was second in command to the largest commercial real estate outfit in the country. And I'm working with him, and this is when I was doing a lot more one-on-ones, and it was day two. And he said, Peter, do you think this is all going to work out? I go, what's going to work out? He's like, do you think this is going to help me like regain my position at the company and leadership acumen and is going to work out with the team? You know what I said to him?
What's that?
But I have no idea.
Yeah.
He goes, what? I go, how would I know? I just met you. I go, and by the way, maybe the best thing for you is that it doesn't work out.
Right.
Maybe this chapter's supposed to come to a close. Maybe it's time for a new book. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. Only you do.
Yeah.
But it's going to take you zooming out to be like, hey, why am I even doing the thing that I'm doing? And he goes, Peter, I've had probably 10 coaches in my career, and they've always told me what I wanted to hear. They've always said, hey, and we'll call him John. Hey, John, of course it's going to work out. We're going to go through this, and this is going to put you back in this position of power. Like, you're the first person that's ever told me the truth.
Yeah.
And this guy just starts crying. It's like a really powerful individual. And it's because he's never taken the time. He's been in the business for 25 years. He's never taken the time to zoom out and be like, wait a minute, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this anymore. What do I even want? The guy's clearly unhappy.
Right.
I would say argue a square peg, like probably shouldn't have been what he was doing, what he's doing to begin with. Just found himself there and just kept climbing the ladder. But it's, who cares if this works out? Maybe it shouldn't.
Right.
He hadn't even thought about it. And so this is why identity has been such a powerful thing for me. And then realizing, oh man, I'm learning all this stuff personally because it's important to me. And one of the things that Jamie talks a lot about is truth telling. And just tell the truth.
I think that's what'll make you coach you are a greater coach is by taking it on, doing it yourself. What I see over and over with people, are you doing the work yourself? Are you coachable? Are you able to step into that space? Now, with all this knowledge, what if someone comes to you, they're not a Christian, wants coaching? What
Yeah.
will you do? Do you take people on who aren't Christians?
Yeah. So I'll answer this a different way because it's interesting. I naturally do not attract people that aren't Christians because I'm so overt in my faith. Will I coach someone who's not a Christian? Absolutely. They just have to be okay with me being obnoxiously who I am. Because the thing is, I share it all with love. I love talking to people from all other faith backgrounds because I continue to learn.
Right.
And if you can put up with me just being just obnoxiously who I am, I'd love to have you around me.
That's what I learned about you when we were in Palm Springs. You are voraciously curious. You
Yeah.
constantly are asking questions. You're insightful about, you talk about getting from A to B and insightful questions. And I think that's what great coaches do. They ask insightful questions that make you evaluate where you want to go.
It's all in the inquiry, man.
Yeah. Peter, is there anything I haven't asked you that you would like me to ask you? What is one question you would say, I want to answer this one? It's burning on you right now.
Yeah. I just think for the listener, it's so incredibly important to reflect on the stuff that we've been talking about, Greg. Like, really zoom out and ask yourself why. Well, my buddy likes to say that this phrase that I've co-opted, it's like the so what and the who cares. And so when you're having something that's just going sideways and it's not working out the way you want, it's asking yourself, like, so what? Who cares? Because really, you're going to probably have a visceral reaction and be like, what do you mean, so what? It's really important. Oh, really? How come? Why is it important? If it doesn't work out, then well, who cares if it works out? Oh, and then you just get to the bottom of that, Greg. It's such a fun thing because then you realize half the time it's actually, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work out. I don't even like this job. I don't even like this business. And so, like, thinking about those things, it allows you to cut to the core of why you're doing what you're doing. Because I always like to joke, man, it doesn't take very long for us to become grumpy old men, grumpy old women, right? Become super practical on the way things have to be done or the things that you should be doing. We start saying really terrible things like that, and you find yourself in a place that you don't even like, that you don't even want to be. And so just ask yourself the questions. So what? Who cares?
I love that. So
Yeah.
everyone, ask yourself, so what, and who cares about what you're doing? I really want you to take that on. Hopefully, this is a message that will wake you up around, do you have the identity, really understand yourself and what you're doing and why you're doing it? I love that. Peter, thank you so much for being a guest today. And I want to say thank you for watching again. And I'd ask you to click or subscribe if you would. It would help us immensely. And until next time, I'm Greg Stevens. Be bold, be courageous, and respectfully speak your truth. Thank you for being here for another episode of A Shot of Inspiration. Till next time, bye-bye. Thank you so much, Peter. Thanks for listening to this episode of A Shot of Inspiration. If you like this or any of our other episodes, make sure you rate it and share it with a friend. This is Greg Stevens, and we look forward to being with you next time. Until then, be bold, be courageous, and respectfully speak your truth.